Ferrari entered Hungary with enough speed to fight at the front. Then one penalty changed everything. Lewis Hamilton was dropped 3 grid places for impeding Oscar Piastri. Charles Leclerc remained in the podium fight. The car had real pace. But by the checkered flag, Leclerc was 4th, Hamilton was 5th, and Ferrari had turned one of its strongest weekends into another painful missed opportunity. The shocking part was not that Ferrari lacked speed. It was that the speed was there, the podium was within reach, and the entire race still slipped out of their control. And the deeper reason behind that collapse was far more serious than one penalty. Subscribe to the channel. To understand why Ferrari's Hungarian Grand Prix became so painful, we have to go back to Friday, when the team looked ready to control the entire weekend. Lewis Hamilton finished first in the second practice session. Charles Leclerc finished second. A Ferrari won too, on a circuit where confidence matters almost as much as speed. The Hungaroring is narrow, technical, and extremely difficult to overtake on. One corner flows directly into the next. A small mistake does not disappear after a few seconds. It follows the driver into the next turn, then the next one after that. That makes balance incredibly important. If the front of the car refuses to turn, the driver loses confidence. If the rear becomes unstable, the driver cannot apply the power properly. If the tires begin to overheat, the performance can disappear before the team has time to react. But on Friday, Ferrari looked calm. The car appeared stable through the slow and medium speed corners. Hamilton and Leclerc could push without constantly correcting the steering wheel. For once, Ferrari did not look like a team searching for answers. It looked like a team that had already found them. The high downforce package appeared to suit Budapest. In simple terms, the car seemed capable of creating the grip needed to remain connected to the track through the circuit's long sequence of corners. Think of running across a polished floor. You may have all the strength in the world, but without grip, that strength becomes useless. Ferrari finally looked connected to the surface. The front responded. The rear remained calmer. The drivers could commit. And commitment creates speed. That was why Hamilton's performance mattered so much. He was not simply producing a quick lap. He was showing that the Ferrari could behave predictably. A predictable car gives the driver trust. Trust allows later braking. Trust allows more speed through the corner. Trust allows the driver to attack instead of waiting for the car to make a mistake. Hamilton had that trust. Leclerc had it too. And when both drivers feel confident at the same time, the team begins to believe the performance is real. Suddenly, Ferrari was not only thinking about points. A front row start looked possible. A podium looked realistic. And if everything went perfectly, even a fight at the very front no longer felt impossible. But Fred Vasseur remained careful. He recognized that the balance looked good. He also appeared surprised by how competitive Ferrari had become. Still, he refused to celebrate. He warned that Friday would not decide the result. Saturday would matter more. Sunday would matter most. At the time, those words sounded cautious. By the end of the weekend, they sounded like a warning. Because practice never reveals everything. Teams may use different fuel loads. Engine settings may vary. Traffic can destroy one driver's lap and make another driver appear stronger. A red flag can interrupt the longer runs before anyone fully understands the true race pace. Ferrari had seen enough to feel confident, but it had not seen enough to feel safe. And that difference would become critical. A car can be exceptional for one lap when the tires are fresh and the fuel load is lighter. Then the race begins. The fuel changes the balance. The tires begin to heat. The grip starts moving away from the driver. The same car that felt sharp in qualifying can become much harder to control across a full race. Is the difference between sprinting across a room and running several miles. The first challenge is about speed. The second is about control. Ferrari knew it had speed. What still needed to prove was whether that speed could survive Sunday. That made qualifying even more important. At the Hungaroring, starting near the front gives a driver something more valuable than a good view into the first corner. It gives control. There is cleaner air. There are fewer cars ahead. There's less danger of becoming trapped in traffic. The team can choose its own strategy instead of reacting to everyone else. And Hamilton appeared to have secured exactly that advantage. He qualified second. For a brief moment, Ferrari had everything it had been building toward. A competitive car, a confident driver, a front row position, a realistic path toward the podium. Then the stewards became involved. Hamilton was judged to have unnecessarily impeded Oscar Piastri during the final part of qualifying. The punishment was 3 grid positions. Second became 5th. At another circuit, that might have been manageable. In Hungary, it changed the entire shape of the race. Hamilton did not only lose 3 places. He lost clean air. He lost strategic freedom. He lost the ability to attack from the front row. And most importantly, he lost control. Every car ahead became another obstacle. Another driver could slow him through the corners. Another team could stop early and force Ferrari to react. Another battle could overheat the tires. Another lap in traffic could erase the advantage Ferrari had worked all weekend to create. The penalty did not make the Ferrari slower. It made the speed much harder to use. That was the cruel part. Ferrari had finally found a package that appeared capable of fighting near the front. Hamilton had delivered the qualifying position. Leclerc was still competitive. The opportunity was already there. And before the race had even started, that opportunity had been pushed onto a much more dangerous path. But this was only the first layer of the problem. Because once Hamilton started 5th, Ferrari's race stopped being about pure pace. It became a battle against traffic, tire temperature, strategy, and pressure. And one lost position was about to create several more. Editar. Once Hamilton started from 5th, the penalty stopped being a simple grid change. It became the shape of his entire race. It can force the chasing team to prove that its decision will work. Ferrari had speed. McLaren had control. And in a close race, control is often more powerful. Hamilton could still push. Leclerc could still remain close to the podium. But Ferrari needed something to change the order. A perfectly timed stop. A clear gap in traffic. A mistake from a rival. Something had to open the race. It never opened enough. And that is where the frustration became impossible to ignore. Hamilton knew the car was competitive. He had felt it on Friday. He had qualified 2nd before the penalty. He knew what the Ferrari could do in clean conditions. But Sunday was no longer giving him those conditions. The performance was still inside the car. The race was preventing him from using it. That is one of the hardest situations for a driver to accept. When the car is slow, the explanation is simple. The team needs more speed. When the car is fast, every lost opportunity feels avoidable. Could the traffic have been escaped earlier? Could the strategy have created more space? Could the tires have been protected differently? Could Ferrari have reacted faster? Each question creates another one. And every answer leads back to the same uncomfortable truth. Ferrari had arrived in Hungary with enough pace to fight for more than 4th and 5th. But the team never recovered the control it lost before the race began. Leclerc eventually finished 4th. Hamilton finished 5th. Those positions looked respectable. They did not reflect the full opportunity. That was what made the results so painful. Ferrari was not far away from the podium. It was close enough to believe it belonged there. The difference was not a complete lack of speed. It was the ability to execute when the race became complicated. McLaren handled those moments more effectively. Ferrari did not. And this is where the weekend became bigger than Hamilton's penalty. Formula One is not won by speed alone. It is won by combining speed with timing, communication, tire management, and track position. One weakness can damage everything around it. A lower starting position creates traffic. Traffic increases tire stress. Tire stress limits strategy. Limited strategy gives the rival more control. And more control allows the rival to protect the result. Nothing happened alone. Every problem strengthened the next one. By the time Ferrari needed a final response, the race had already been shaped by everything that came before. That is why Hamilton's frustration after the race mattered so much. He was not leaving Hungary after a weekend without hope. He was leaving after a weekend where hope had been real. The car had worked. The pace had appeared. The front row had been there. Then the opportunity disappeared in stages. First came the penalty. Then came the traffic. Then came the loss of strategic freedom. Then came the growing advantage for the cars already ahead. No single moment looked large enough to explain everything. Together, they decided the race. That is how some of the most painful defeats happen. Not with smoke. Not with a broken engine. Not with one dramatic collapse. They happen quietly. A position lost here. A lap delayed there. A tire pushed slightly too hard. A rival reacting a little faster. By the time the result appears, the race has already been lost in pieces. Ferrari did not suddenly become slow. Ferrari slowly became trapped. And once that happened, the speed that had looked so powerful on Friday could no longer rescue Sunday. But the deepest warning was still ahead. Because Hungary may have proved that Ferrari had found genuine performance. It may also have proved that performance means very little when the team cannot protect it under pressure.